If you've ever asked yourself, why can't I move on? This episode might give you the answer you've been avoiding. Hey, this is Francisca, and this is my mid-crisis life. And today is Monday Mindset Monday. I keep on saying it the wrong way around. I don't know which way around it goes anymore. I don't really care. You get the gist, right? So yesterday in Crisis Confessionals, I was talking about kind of my mental health, where it's been at, the fact that I'm using a lot of distraction techniques at the moment because I feel alone and I'm kind of avoiding having to sit with that feeling of being alone. So I'm just immersing myself in somebody else's life who's not alone, which is really lovely, but very unhealthy. I spoke about kind of wanting to reach out, but only really having one-sided relationships in my life at the moment, and realizing that actually, in order for me to move forward, in order for me to achieve my goals, I need to surround myself. I need to have better connections. I need to have healthier relationships, right? I can't do it on my own. I can't. But being scared and the fact that those friendships kind of want to keep me in that old version of myself, and ultimately that I need to kind of create space by shedding those relationships for the new to come in, for there to be space for something new to come in, and realizing actually that maybe the fear isn't the unknown, it's not losing people, it's not new people, but there's a fear around the new me. So what that led me to think about is this idea of like creating space, right? And thinking about kind of like, why is it that we hold on to the old, even when it's like harmful, even when it's painful, even when it's really destructive in our lives? Why is it that we do that? And there's so many different ways that we can do it in our lives. There's so many different ways that it shows up, like from toxic relationships to one-sided friendships, like what I'm talking about, or unfulfilling jobs. A lot of people stay in really unfulfilling jobs, or avoiding pursuing our goals, or being in like really dysfunctional relationships, or dysfunctional like family environments, for example. And I think I always say that growth only comes from discomfort. We have to be in a place of discomfort in order to be able to grow. And I think the reason why we stay in the old rather than moving into anything in the new is because it's familiar. So even though it might be harmful, it's what we know. People say the better the devil you know, right? And the new is completely unknown. And we have a fear of the future. We have a fear of what that future might look like if it doesn't look like our past, right? But I think the reason why we might believe that, or one of the things that I definitely get hung up on, is because I feel like I have a belief that the future makes me. So it's like the future makes me. Whatever my future is going to be, that is the thing that is going to dictate who I am and what I've achieved and my value. But actually, it's not that way. It's the other way around, right? It's that we make the future, right? And there's a difference. What is the difference, right, between people who go for it and people who don't? People who say, right, I'm going to make my own future, and people who feel like, well, I don't know what the future is going to be, so I don't know who I can be in that future. I think the main difference, and there's a lot of different things, but one of the things is that it's just essentially self-confidence, right? And self-confidence is a term that gets bandied around all the time, like, oh, hasn't she got a lot of self-confidence? Like, or I've got a lot of self-confidence, or whatever, right? But it's like, what is self-confidence? Self-confidence is confidence in the self. Confidence in yourself, confidence in myself. So confidence in the self rather than confidence in the future or the relationship or the promise or the possibility, right? And I think, yeah, it's self-confidence, but I think self-confidence is more than just something that we have. I think it's something that we acquire, something that we acquire through the messages that we receive from a very young age about who we are in this world, and who we are in this world irrespective of who we are in this world, And it's like, even if we fail, we still have ourselves. And I wonder whether or not you can begin to know yourself enough to have faith in the self rather than faith in everything around you. And I think that there's a couple of things that you can do in order to make that happen, right? So I think firstly, it's really important to acknowledge that familiarity trap. So it's like just recognizing that you're staying in really harmful situations, whether that be like that toxic relationship or unfulfilling job or whatever, right? And it often stems, recognizing that often stems from the comfort of the familiar and the fear of the unknown, which can be really paralyzing, right? But acknowledging that is like kind of the first step towards change, just having that awareness. And then I think it's important to kind of just identify what's holding you back, right? So to make a list of areas in your life where you feel stuck, like I've said, one-sided friendships, of avoidance of personal goals or dysfunctional family dynamics, right? And understanding that through understanding these patterns that can help you to see where that change is kind of needed, right? Then it's really important to challenge your limiting beliefs, right? So we think that the future shapes us, but in reality, we have the power to shape the future, right? So cultivating self-confidence, not just in the outcomes, but in your ability to kind of handle whatever comes at you. Really important. I think practicing mindfulness, right? So meditation, deep breathing, journaling, all of these practices can help you to kind of like stay present and stop being anxious about a future that hasn't even happened, about something that lives only in your own head, right? Which really is only based upon what you already know of the past. So you're just kind of reliving the past and projecting that onto the future and then feeling anxious about something that hasn't even happened, right? I think it's really important to be around supportive people, to have supportive relationships, and then to let go of relationships that keep you anchored to like a version of you, a version of yourself that you're ready to move beyond, that you're ready to let go of. Decluttering your environment, making sure that things around you are clean, that you've got an organized space, that you can breathe, that you can focus in the space that you're in. And then just setting like really small, achievable goals rather than constantly looking at like the end goal or the end outcome, right? So breaking down those kind of larger objectives into like more manageable steps, right? And then what that really does is it makes that process feel like less overwhelming. And finally, like I just think it's really important to embrace the process, right? To understand that growth of any kind, whether that be personal, whether it be work related, spiritual, all of it is a journey, right? And it's really important to just be like patient with yourself and to recognize that setbacks are kind of a natural part of that, and to celebrate every step that you take, even if it feels like a step backwards, because all of it is moving you towards your goal. Yeah, I think that's it. So I don't know, maybe try to start that process from just acknowledging that this is something you do, to accepting that this is a process, embracing that this is a process, everything's always a process. And if you want to immerse yourself more a little bit in that process, then come back on Thursday for Chrysalis Tools, and I'll be taking you through a practice that's hopefully going to help you to go through those stages. All right, that's it. Drop a comment. What's one area of your life you know it's time to let go of, but you're still holding on? Let's name it. No shame, just truth.